Hi everyone, welcome to Living La VEEta Loca podcast, a retro gaming podcast for some of your retro gaming needs. My name is Fazz.
And I'm back.
Yay! Rich is back. It's weirdly, it's only been like 9 days for people to listen to the podcast, but for us, it's been 6 weeks since we last recorded a podcast together, which is a long time.
Yeah.
In fact, significantly the longest since we started doing the podcast, so it's nice to be back together.
Yeah.
I feel like you've come back from Japan with your wife Fiona, enriched. Rich and rich. Yeah, like, you know, like culturally, spiritually.
Rich.
You guys look great. I mean,
Thanks.
I know Fiona's had COVID. That's not been great, but
I mean, she's sat up right now. That's,
yeah,
that's good,
the
isn't
cheeky
it?
bonus of being upright. But yeah, you know, you're looking great in your whatever, the Hawks baseball top that
Go
I'm
Hawks.
very cock. And yeah, I'm spotting things around. That is in, you know, you've been talking about little tidbits you've got from some of the gaming shops and things that you went to over there. What was your favourite thing that you picked up altogether? Like,
Damn.
I'm just looking at all your wares, like, isn't it? Just
My
like...
wares. Baseball jerseys in Fukuoka are up there. I've got the I was just before we started recording saying about one of the life-size Gundam robots you can go see outside one of the shopping centres. I've got a model in one of my cases of said robot.
I will send out on the one social media that we use this week at some point.
There's always some like fun sort of gadgetry type stuff. You know, pop your money in, spin the dial, get a ball of something. There was a little. It took me freaking ages to find like a Tekken one.
Okay.
For some weird reason, they couldn't find one for love nor money, but then they did find one in like the last place we went to just before we came back. And I've got like a tiny keyring-sized arcade stick from Tekken 8 that plays little sounds when you press the buttons and stuff out on the front.
I bet you were well chuffed when that came out.
Yeah, I was chuffed it wasn't a character that I actively despise or anything like that. And yeah, like all those little bits and bobs. We were really restrained this time. Like the first time we went, we definitely had that moment of, we don't know if we'll ever be back here again.
Yeah.
Let's buy all the tat.
Yeah.
This time we went and we're like, even if we have to work really hard and save really hard, we will be back. We've got a plan. We know where we want to go for a third trip and all that. And we're lucky enough to have managed to do it. Like, we want to go back.
Yeah.
So yeah, this time was a lot more, and we were just covering a bigger distance as well, thinking about it. But yeah, we were a lot more restrained with what we were buying this time.
Did you find it a lot easier to do an itinerary this time around than the first time, or was it more or less prescriptive, especially with covering so much?
I think it was easier for us to pick the towns because we were almost less fussy in a weird way.
They'll all be good.
We were just like, we knew the kind of regions we wanted to get to, and after that it was like, okay, what sounds cool? Rather than, we have to do Tokyo, we have to do Kyoto, we have to do Osaka. The only kind of criteria I put on it this time was, well, we finished in Osaka last time. I really like it. Can we start there this time? Which we did, and then we just went further south. Yeah. Which worked out well for us. Okay.
And how did you find it? Because obviously a lot of people kind of say, you know, it's quite difficult to go to far-flung lands, and obviously culturally, Fiona can speak quite a significant amount of Japanese and things. How did you guys find that this time around, especially second time around? Like,
I think fee speaking a fair bit of it definitely helped. I've got a little bit of it. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't. Yeah, I assumed that you did, but I didn't know how much. So I didn't want to say.
But the but was like, I'm quite good at mime. So like,
just there in your fucking black and white top.
Well,
just
not even that. Just like, I'm kind of good at reading context. So there'd be times when Fee would be like, "Oh God, what are they asking me?" And I could just lean over and be like, they want to know if you want a bag. Yeah, like that was kind of how it went last time. Yeah. This time we were both much more on the same page with things, but also a lot more of the signage, because we weren't going, like, we were further off the beaten path than the first time we went, but we still went massively far. So a lot of the signage was still in English as well as Japanese. Yeah, all the announcements on trains and stuff like that were a lot of places, because you've got generative AI nowadays. More than once we were finding in like hotels and stuff like that, suddenly all of the information was in English as well, because they just ran it through AI. Oh,
yeah, okay.
So enough. Like overnight, it almost seems as though a load of places were just like, oh shit, we can just spit out a new set of menus dead easy. So they've made really good use of it like that. And yeah, like it was pretty straightforward. I don't really recall much in the way of a big sort of hiccup. I think the biggest problem we had was with a vending machine, because everything's in vending machines, and there was one where my wife thought she could get a nice snack pizza slice, and it turns out it was very much frozen and had to go in a microwave when you get home. And, we hadn't quite registered
just
that
sucking
one.
on pizza.
She spent about 4 hours wandering around town with this like slowly defrosting pizza slice in her bag.
Walk quick enough, it'll warm up, right?
Yeah. I think that was probably one of the worst ones we had this time around.
Yeah.
which is not bad
it's not
going
bad
at all,
exactly.
really.
Yeah, I do that here. We just,
exactly.
Get confused about pizza here.
It's easily done.
So I guess thank you for people listening and letting us indulge, because it's just nice to kind of chat, and hopefully people. All I ever hear feedback about the podcast is that people like our conversations, so we're just having one about I'm so
surprised.
But just so excited to hear about your trip and everything. So I mean, you've already spoke to me for about half an hour downstairs about it, and I still want to hear more. But we'll kick on with video gaming, and we'll get back on the horse, because it feels like it's been a while. I'm trying. How do I do this segue? You escaped to Japan for a few weeks.
Yep.
We're going to try and escape some other places now. And the only place I could escape was via my video games. It's a sad state of affairs. But so I thought, you escaped Japan, and you've brought a game that's kind of...
Yeah, it's related.
Yeah, related.
Like, by the time this podcast ends, then this chat at the beginning will kind of tie in.
Yeah, okay,
vaguely.
Cool. Interesting. And this bit of a cultural phenomenon is what I understand at the moment in Japan. The game is called The Exit 8.
Yeah.
Which is hard to say when you say it out loud. From 2023. Yep. So it's, quite a contemporary game. But there's also been a movie released.
There's been a movie.
Like last month, I think.
Yeah.
Or something like that. So did you see it advertised when you were in Japan?
We did, which is how come I ended up picking up the game.
Interesting.
I'm also quietly convinced, and I should have done my homework to check this, and I didn't. I think I saw somewhere on the Osaka Metro that there was some kind of immersive experience thing of it.
Well, that would make sense, yeah.
Which would totally make sense.
Yeah. Well, you just do it, don't you? That
was what I thought. But it was seeing all those adverts plastered on the Metro, funnily enough, that made me think, you know what, like, I'm going to have a look for it. And I had a look on Steam. It happened to be on sale while I was there. So I think I got picked up for like £3 or something ridiculous. Yeah. So I was like, yep, right, let's go.
Did you? I expect the answer to be no. Did you do any gaming over there? As in, like, any like, as in arcades or anything at all?
No, like the first time we went, definitely made a point to. Yeah. This time, no. Didn't bother. We ended up in a couple of places that had like crane games and stuff like that, but nothing too massively proper arcadey. Yeah. Which it's kind of a shame. But then this time we were in places that just didn't really have as much of that kind of stuff anyway. Yeah. So not too beaten up about that one. Nice
break from video gaming?
Or... Very much so. Turns out I can do real life stuff. I tried paddleboarding one time and like didn't fall off or anything like that. First time of asking straight out, and
didn't have to do it in an arcade.
Didn't have to do it. Yeah, like I go do stuff in real life. I'm capable. Yes. I am a capable human being, which I never realised was the case.
No, well, I'm going to drag you back now into
the depths
of being incapable. See?
Uncapable.
Yeah, brilliant, wonderful. That worked out well for laughs.
We're back.
Shits and giggles. Yeah, absolutely. So, related to the Exit 8, I have picked up 2 PSP games that begin with E, but they're all about escaping as well, sort of. One is called Exit.
This isn't going to get confusing.
From 2005. And the other one is Echochrome, and that's from 2008. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to have to like pivot between my notes, because I actually started, I played through Exit about a year ago, and I meant to put it on the podcast and just never did. And I was like, I'm going to pick that back out, because I feel like, you've been to Japan, you've talked about some PSP stuff, that'd be cool. You're going to do the X8, blah, blah. That all made sense. Yep. So here we are. I might kick us off. Yeah. Just give you, give you an easy in. Like,
thanks. Close my book and put my arm down there. That's fine. So I won't hold that open.
Fucking nap. Just
I'll nip out. Buy anything from the shops.
Yeah, please. Yeah. No, it's like it is weird though, because even though we've had a few podcasts over the last couple of weeks. I'm guessing you haven't listened to any of those because you don't listen to podcasts, which is absolutely fine. Do you know what I mean? So you could have fucking said anything, but like, you know, it's definitely a different dynamic when you do it with different people and on different subjects and stuff. So yeah, it's nice to kind of, you know, get back to the sort of over the table.
Old band back together.
Right. Okay. So Exit. Why did I pick this game to play? I have always been intrigued by the artwork of Exit. I think even just on the actual box itself. I'm sure it was like just a plain yellow with quite a bold sort of comic style writing on it with the word Exit. So it's a very plain sort of looking idea. And I can't really remember like ever looking at the back of the box back in the day, but I was always a bit like, I'm going to play that game at some point in my life. I just don't know when. And then lo and behold, fucking podcast. But yeah, so it was made by Taito back in 2005, 2006. It actually had quite a few sort of long legs. It ended up being on Xbox Arcade in 2007, and then they put it onto the Nintendo DS in 2008 as well. So it has been around some different, you know, I guess some different consoles and things. It was actually ported by Moss, who have done Raiden ports and Neo Geo and a few bits like that. So interesting that they ported it out from the PSP. It is, and this is where it's all going to become gloopy, and every single thing we talk about today is a puzzle escape game, basically. So it's quite nice. It all melds together. You play the lead character, Mr. Esk.
Sure.
Bit on the nose. Yeah. Who is an escape?
I assumed X for some reason.
Mr. Esk. And he's an escapologist. So he basically has to work out how to save people in a room and puzzle your way out of a room and get to the exit.
Right.
You're hindered by what are, you know, the usual things you find in a room, like fires, earthquakes, you know, all those kind of things that, you know, just aren't, you know, in real fucking life, basically. But Mr. Esk is in there. These rooms are pretty crazy dangerous for an escapologist. It made me start looking up how much an escapologist would earn from basically, like, is it for
planning a career change?
But just like what, like, I don't understand, like, what, like, how you sell yourself on LinkedIn, for example, as an escapologist. Just sort of like, you know, oh, by the way, I can perform rescues, save people from burning buildings. I'm an escapologist. And
is that some kind of like security consultant?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe. I couldn't find anything. Right. I'm going to be honest. There wasn't not a surprise. The glassceiling.com like wage packet, if you will, for an escapologist. But I was impressed by Mr. Esk's skill set. I find my way out of buildings sometimes. Am I an escapologist? That is, I hold the door for people sometimes. Is that me helping them out? I feel like, you know, the idea of the game didn't grab me immediately because I was like, I'm just a guy showing people out of a building.
Not all heroes wear capes.
Yeah. Well, he wears a really nice red tie.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, yeah, maybe they do wear ties.
It is a really cool sort of art concept. The opening trailer is really pop arty and vibrant and colourful, and very quite noisy, if I'm going to be honest. That is in, but so you can imagine if you're sat with a PSP on a subway in Japan, it'd be actually pretty noisy. That is in and even in the levels as well, everything kind of pops out at you. There's lots of colour, so that's cool. That is in, you know, it definitely the graphic style as well though is almost like a bit clip arty, but it works for the PSP. You can see that they've kind of went what stands out, but also isn't going to make the PSP chug while you play this puzzle game. So yeah, very easy on the eye. Seems very easy going as well. Like, it's almost like you feel happy wanting to play this game. Like, as in, you know, and you kind of do find yourself being a bit like, you know, in the end, as glib as I was being there, like, you know, it's kind of nice to play the superhero wearing your nice swanky tie and, you know, running in with your cup of coffee and be like, right, okay, come on, let's go save the day. Who are you puzzling? Who are you rescuing out of these rooms? I think there's 4 different types of people. There are young adults who are super useful. Like they can jump, they can climb, they can get all over all these obstacles that are put in your way, whether it's fires, whether it's big walls, steps, things like that. The only thing they can't do is climb through little ducts. But don't worry, because there are children to do that for you. So, so we're sending these little kids through these small ducts because that's how they're useful. But they can't get up high steps, for example. Right. So if there's a high step and you have a child to rescue, you can't do that. The child can't do it by themselves, but you can help them up. Right. So what I'm trying to get at here is the different people that you're rescuing all have different abilities, effectively, to be able to help you. But also little things that hinder you as well. Yeah.
Stuff you got to work around.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Adults, they are obviously very tall and strong, so they can push, I guess, crates and, rocks out the way that seem to be hanging around these rooms as well. These lovely rooms that everyone's these penthouses that look great, but just have random fucking shit lying around. Yeah, I don't understand. Like, and holes in the floor. It's just like. Basically, the design.
We'll fill that in one day.
Yeah. But yeah, so the adults, they can do a lot of the strong work. Then you meet the patients. The patients are just vegetables. They are just people that hinder you. Like, they'd be the first people that you kind of go, we're gonna leave you here. Like, is it like?
Are any of these escapes in a hospital?
Yeah, well, no, but there's a lot of these people in here. Yeah, so it's. I mean, so. To give you an idea of how vast this game is, you start off. I think there's 100 levels in this game,
right?
Plus, and 70 are available to you pretty much straight away. And then there's a weighted DLC that you could get where you could get another 100 levels. So there's a significant amount of game that you can go through. I played about 40 levels, and don't get me wrong, I was never bored. That is in, it changed up the puzzles enough every single time for me to go, I'm not just doing the same thing over and over. And it felt like there was a good personality running through the game. It felt like the Tower Inferno, basically. It just felt like it was kind of never ending, and there was a lot of peril. And yeah, they probably could have just halved the level count, and it would have been absolutely fine. But yeah. So back to these patients. They are a fucking burden. Apart from that, kind of concept wise, really, like I said, you just random different types of people in random different generated rooms. And all these different things that you have to get around, whether that is a sensor to open a door, so someone has to stand on a pressure pad, and you can direct these people. So you remember Die Hard trilogy, and the first level where you kind of like you're going around saving people, and then they kind of run off into their own sort of like run off to the elevator or whatever it is. It's like that, except you can control them. Right. So you can send these people, and like I say, if you've got an adult, for example, a young adult with you, the best of all people. You might be arguing against that, but that they are useful. They will just listen to your instructions and go the right place and be able to do all the right things. So you might have to use a young adult to go and stand on a pressure pad and then climb down a rope, for example, whilst your patient who is fucking useless, like as in you're trying to help them through another part of the mission. It's the problem is that the AI, even for Mr. Esk, it isn't great. It feels like everyone's a bit bumbling, even the people that are meant to be able, even the superhero of the piece. You kind of sometimes will press a button to tell them to lean down to pick up an object, because there are objects that can help you in this game. A bit like almost a little bit like Mario versus Donkey Kong kind of S, where you kind of like you've got to move your way around a platforming level, pick up a key, for example, to get to the next bit. It's just kind of like that, really, without the giant monkey. And so you go to pick up these objects, but it's almost like the game doesn't detect you pressing the button to do so. And it's just like there's little things that are where like, so you may have done. I think there's a 5-minute limit on each of these puzzles as well, so there is a time sort of constraint to make it a bit more stressful to get out of the building. And you may have done 90% of a puzzle, but then Mr. Esk may miss a jump over the most basic of play. You might have jumped over it 16 times during that level, and you've done all this work. And then Mr. Esk, like, you think you've pressed your button on your PSP, you think you press, I think, circle, whatever, to do the jump over the little tiny hole, and he just falls to his doom, like, you know, one floor down. Like, and you're just like, I've just done so much work for what feels like an input error, like, and almost like, and I don't feel like I was at fault there. It just felt like it cheated you a couple of times.
Sounds a little cheap.
Yeah, and that was annoying when you get up to, say, the 40th level and you've been grinding at this game that in theory you're enjoying, but then all these things happen where you're like, right, I've just, say you've done it 3 times in a row where you've just fucked up something, or it's not even you fucking up. It feels like the game, like, is just like not detecting what you're telling it to do at certain times.
Yeah.
And when everything needs to be so precise, when you're jumping over a little gap or pushing a crate down a gap or something like that, and it just doesn't, I think there was one time where, like, I got to, like, the last sort of, like, 30 seconds of the level, and I was just taking this patient out, and I was like, oh, brilliant, like, this is like, I've done a great escape here. And for no reason, my young adult, like, moved off, like, the pressure pad, and, like, the door closed on us, and I was like, fuck. I was like, what happened? What? I didn't tell him to do that. Like, there was nothing that I did there that made that happen. And it just felt like it was just like the game was having a fucking joke on me. It was just like, so, yeah, there was some really frustrating parts of it. But overall, it was a fun PSP puzzler that I can just see. I managed to while away 3 or 4 hours, and so I imagine that the whole game maybe takes like 8 or 9 hours to do 100 levels. And if you are so inclined, there's Exit 2, which is the sequel, and also there's another 70 levels you can download somewhere, I believe, like probably off, like in the internet somewhere nowadays, to be able to play it as well. So if you enjoy a puzzle game that is more than the Sun crossword on Nintendo DS, but also probably a little bit less than I'll speak about in a bit with Echochrome.
Yeah.
Not the most polished game, and it'll be interesting to see what Exit 2's like, because I feel like this was I recommend people go away and play this, but it wasn't like the best game I've played this year, and certainly wasn't the best puzzler I've played on PSP or will go on to play on PSP. I've heard Crush is meant to be really, really good, and I really want to get around to that at some point. And this kind of got pretty good reviews at the time, but now there was just some frustrating parts of it where I was like, I don't know. I don't even know if it's gone to mobile or anything like that particularly, but if you're having to go back and play it on the PSP, and it's, so for example, Echochrome, which I'll go on to, but that's on PS Plus, and you can play it on your PS4, and whereas this, I think Exit is still consigned to the PSP, / also the ports for Nintendo DS as well, so you have to go seek it out on those platforms. Would I spend so much time doing that? I don't know. The character AI and the little bit of jank in the game, that it annoyed me a little bit, but generally pretty good value, I guess. So like just lots to it. So yeah, I reckon about a 5 out of 10 for that.
5.
Yeah, not a bad game, like pretty good game. Just there was bits where I just got pissed off, and that might just be because of I'm a 37-year-old man just getting angry at my PSP. Like it's just like, but yeah, I do think that there's definitely a lot of puzzlers on the PSP, and the more I do this podcast, the more I find new ones that I've not even heard of, or ones that I saw back in the day and I thought I want to play that at some point, like this game.
Yeah.
And it's great because it's a really nice. It's nice to know that there are handheld puzzles that were more than like I just took the piss out of it. The Sun crossword and stuff like is in on handheld consoles that had just something about them.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Even substance.
Even if it wasn't the best game I've ever played. So
nice.
Yeah. From the Exit then to the Exit 8.
Yes.
Not to be confusing at all.
Yeah. This is fine. It'll be fine. Do you happen to know much about the Exit 8?
I know the main core concept.
Yep.
and that it's a bit unsettling. Is
that's basically it.
Yeah, like you're trying to escape a bunch of corridors.
Yeah,
and then the game resets if you take the wrong turn.
So you start going down this corridor. Because it's a video game.
The classic set of any video game.
You go past some signage, a couple of doors, a bloke walking the other way, that kind of thing. You go around a corner, you go around another corner, you go past a set of signs, basically telling you what exit number is coming up.
Oh, right, okay.
You go around
that makes sense.
that corner, and you're in the first corridor again.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's the entirety of the kind of quote unquote map that you're playing with here.
Right. Okay. So say you've done the first exit.
Yeah.
Are you on to then on? Do you know if you're onto the next?
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
So that sort of last set of signs before you're back onto that corridor that's actually got some stuff on it, has a big sign basically with the instructions of what you're meant to be doing.
Okay.
Kind of disguised as a sort of general kind of safety notice type thing.
Yeah.
And a big yellow sign that has a counter on it. So as you manage to successfully go down this corridor, if there are no anomalies, unlike this sentence, if there are no anomalies, you have to keep walking.
Okay.
And you'll get to the next exit, right? If you spot an anomaly, you have to turn around and go back the way you came, then you will get to the next exit.
Okay. So basically like a game of spot the difference, basically.
Yes.
All right.
That is exactly it. Yes. And that is it. That is the gameplay. It's spot the difference. There's no story, so fuck knows how the movie works. But I kind of like that because, like, you know, you go down some of these kind of subway tunnels and stuff like that in Japan. A lot of them will have shops. They'll have stuff going on. It's reasonably easy to work out if you've been somewhere before.
Yeah.
But occasionally you come across a tunnel that is not a million miles removed from that one. And yeah, like you could totally see how the idea would have popped up in someone's head. And it's kind of cool. I kind of like it. I think the big thing for me is probably more of a regret on my part rather than a fault of the game. I hear tell that there is a VR version, and I think that could well be where this game would sing.
Yeah.
Because like playing it, like I was playing it on my on Steam, and it plays fine. Right, it looks nice, but it's not exactly, you know, bleeding edge graphics and particle like things everywhere and all that kind of stuff.
I guess it doesn't need to be necessarily, really.
No, it more than does the job, right? And if you, this is going to sound so odd, but if you just like stood looking at one of the signs, like the weirdest, not the weirdest, the most video game graphics bit of that game is the bloke walking the other way.
Oh, right, okay.
If you stood and just looked at basically any other bit of it, you could probably get a screenshot of it, and a casual observer would just be like, "Oh, it's a photograph."
Yeah.
Like, I mean, yeah, you could probably spot the graphical tells. Yeah. You know, various times, but like it looks good. Is my point. Considering that it's not really doing a lot, it does look good.
Yeah.
And yeah, it kind of plays almost like PT. If anybody out there in the internet or yourself ever mucked about with it,
I haven't. I'm going to be honest. This is PT is one of those games where I feel like it pops up in you know, articles that I'm reading, but I don't know anything about that game at all, and that means I'm dumb because it's meant to be like one of these, you know, seminal games, isn't it? I guess, but I don't know anything about it.
So for me,
2 letters, PT.
Well, yeah, for me, and I guess I hope it's the case with a lot of other people, is that this kind of notion of a repeating corridor was kind of PT's big thing, right? Okay. And I think the Exit 8 is the kind of nicest distilling of that kind of mechanic.
Yeah.
And sure, it is basically spot the difference, but like, it's fun. It's a fun, unsettling, creepy, like weird, like any kind of story or unsettled feelings you get seemed to come from however I was reading it as I was playing it.
Yeah.
Right. It's not like there are jump scares, but there are times when something happens and you're like, ugh.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to dance around any kind of spoilers. And it's not like there's a story, but like the trick is that if it is literally spot the difference and there's nothing else in this game except that, I can't start talking about too many anomalies that you do come across, because that is half the fun, right? Well, in fact, it's 99% of the fun. What I will say is that it is quite short, and like it's billed as a walking simulator. Between those two things, like I could see how somebody would potentially pick it up and be like, oh, well, I don't really feel like I've got my money's worth out of that.
Yeah.
I think you can probably finish it if you do everything successfully. You can get through it fast, really fast. So I imagine there's probably a decent speedrunning community for this.
15 seconds done.
For my part, I found the ending, but I kept walking and turned my back on it because I thought it was an anomaly.
Okay.
And this is the big thing for me. There's no feedback apart from the counter resetting if you walk past an anomaly that you don't spot.
I see.
So there's nothing to tell you, oh, that's the kind of thing you should be looking out for. Some of the anomalies are obvious, right?
Yeah.
A lot of them are not. So that it was just starting to become a little bit frustrating.
I was just going to say, did you find that thrilling or really fucking annoying?
It was really annoying for a couple of minutes, and then I got to the ending again.
Okay.
And I don't think I got to the ending by actually doing the game properly. I think the game ran out of things to show me, and then was just like, here's the end.
Get out now.
and it was at that point where I was like, oh, I walked past this like half an hour ago.
Shit.
But I had still spotted other things, like new things, afterwards. So it was kind of hard to get too bent out of shape over it, because even with that little extended play, it still only clocked in at maybe about 90 minutes total. So like
that's more than I thought it was going to be. I thought you were going to sort of say, when I was not the same level of game in terms of like how good it is, but Paratopic was like 45 minutes of kind of walking sim, like corridors and stuff.
So I think if you go on howlongtobeat.com, I think the average clocks in at about 45 minutes ish. Personally, I would still kind of be okay with that. Like, I think the game does what it sets out to do. There's just not a lot of meat on the bone. They have a sequel, so I'm kind of curious to pick that up now to see how they build on this idea. But yeah, there are a couple of bits that like I definitely, and I mean, full disclosure, like with the various other games that I'm going to be reviewing very, very soon, there is a definite set of themes that will emerge here, right?
All 45 minutes.
If
all
only. But like, I have a very particular flavour of horror that I would hesitate to say but like my kind of, the one that I gravitate towards, and this is it, right? That kind of unsettling, like, have I just seen that out of the corner of my eye kind of thing, rather than like jump scares.
Is this? I know it's not overtly horror, but is it?
Is it scary?
Yeah. Is it just scary to who you are as a person? Or
so I
depending on who you are.
I would say it was more creepy than scary.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's exactly the kind of thing that I like. That's what I go for. There are bits where I could see if you were of a particularly nervous disposition, there are a couple of bits that would throw you. There are a couple of fun nods to a couple of famous films and stuff like that as well, which if you kind of know the sort of flavour of horror that it would be leaning towards, if it was more scary, makes sense.
I was about to say, nothing good ever happens in a corridor, ever. Like, do you know what I mean?
Well,
there's absolutely in any movie, anything ever. If you're in a long corridor, like nothing. You don't ever get like someone come and bring you a fucking lovely chocolate cake and banners.
Exactly. Exactly.
And like, someone's coming after you.
And so I think that's the bit of my brain that this game tickles.
Yes.
That exact thing. And what I got out of it was enjoying the creativity that went into you have this situation, very limited number of not even moving parts, but like you start to obsess over like, was that security camera in that place when I went through here last time?
Well, you have to, don't you?
Are those doors too close together?
Yeah.
Am I hearing something strange? And that is where it starts to become this kind of effective psychological horror, because suddenly it's not anything the game is necessarily doing, but you are obsessing over the dumbest things. Like, oh, is this tile too far over? Is that the wrong color? Like, and you start to just like wrap yourself in knots. And so, yes, so much of the kind of effective unraveling of your psyche is down to you. And this sort of state that the game puts you in.
I was going to say, I wonder if I would enjoy it, because that it annoys, like I very quickly, I'm generally I'm quite a patient person, but when my own stupidity annoys me, like my fuse goes very quickly. So, for example, if I don't spot something on Spot the Difference, for example, quick enough, I'm just so out. I'm like, you can't make me do this. You can't. You know, like,
I'm not playing your game.
No, yeah, exactly. No, I'm done. So it might not be for me necessarily.
I think it's one of those games that I would absolutely urge anybody that has an opportunity to pick it up. Probably try and aim to get it reasonably cheap. It is quite cheap anyway, if I remember rightly.
Yeah.
So you can play it on, I think, basically everything. It ticked a lot of my boxes. I really enjoyed it as an experience. It's basically everything that, if anybody's ever listened to me talking about any of these weird offbeat short focused gaming experiences, it ticks a lot of my boxes, and I would thoroughly recommend it to anybody. It's not for everybody, of course it's not, but if you are in the right frame of mind, like I think there is definitely something to be said for it. How it would translate to a film or a live, like immersive experience, I'm less sure about.
I think it's very much based upon, isn't it? I think from what I read.
Yeah, I could imagine a couple of nods. I think they updated the game to include an anomaly from the film after it came out. You know, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But for me, I think it's always going to be about the game. I would be really, really keen if anybody out there in internet land has played it on VR to hear what they reckon, because I think that could well be the way to play it. Just because I think that what you could sort of take as a like almost sensory deprivation type like hypnotic state, I imagine could add to the like uncanny valley.
Yeah, I'm sure when you mentioned that before, I was a bit like, and I didn't want to knock our recording off because my phone could be very temperamental, but I was like, oh, maybe I should go to the MetaQuest store, because maybe I've even looked up to see if it's there. Because these are the games where on VR, for example, you're not asking it to do too much.
Yeah.
But it is, and I remember speaking about Killer Frequency, and funnily enough, I'll kind of reference it next week's podcast as well. But I remember saying about that, feeling like the control. That was to do with the controls, but that would have been better in VR than it was when I just played it straight on the PlayStation 4. Significantly, I believe. So I wonder if it would be the case with this, even though you said it's still a good experience.
I still enjoyed it. Like, it's going to be an acquired taste, I think, is fair to say. But yeah, for me, the fun of it was just spotting the ways. Call it 7 different bits of furniture in a corridor can really like mess with your head. So I'm gonna give it an 8.
Yeah,
funnily enough. But
branding.
But that's the kind of thing that like I could imagine that a VR version could be up towards a 9.
Yeah.
I very nearly gave this 9.
Oh really?
And
wow. Okay.
The only thing that stopped me was just that little bit of frustration where it started to feel like maybe it was just starting to outstay its welcome. But we're talking like 10-15 minutes. I really enjoyed it and would definitely recommend.
I've been really worried about adding a little bit more VR reviews into the podcast, just because I'm a bit like, I'm aware that not many people have necessarily adopted it or think it's worth doing. But I'm gonna try and start sprinkling a little bit more, maybe not full reviews and stuff, but a bit of a VR corner, sort of, every so often, just because I'm like, I've played loads of good stuff on VR that you wouldn't necessarily go, oh, that's a AAA game that I've even heard of and stuff. But as an experience, and it might be, this is different because obviously it has, been, I guess, performs well on other consoles as well. But there's some good experiences out there. Do you know what I mean? I was Aaron, who's been on the podcast before, a good friend of ours, he's got a MetaQuest 2 and I've got the MetaQuest 3S at the moment, and we hadn't been on for like a year and a half together, and then it was when you were away, it was a horrendous storm, and I was like, I'm not walking around to your house to have the beers that I said I was going to have, like, and I was like, but why don't we get the VR headsets out? We haven't had them out for a while, that is in. And it took a little while to set back up on his, and there's a few experiences that don't perform as well on the MetaQuest 2 as they now do on the 3. But we had a great time just knocking about, just again, just kind of get back into things and stuff. And then I started watching the Rubber Keyed Wonder, which the Spectrum documentary, and just forgot how brilliant it is to have a cinema-sized screen in your own room. Do you know what I mean? And you sit in the dark and do it, and you do kind of go, oh yeah, no. I remember why I picked it up and then relinquished it and picked it back up again, because there are experiences there that it's completely non-essential VR, but there are experiences there that you go, wow, that really blew my socks off. And I remember with Res Infinite earlier in the year, I sort of said that felt like a key way to play Res. And yeah, so I'm going to try and be a bit more like, so I'll see how much it is, because if it's not too expensive, I wouldn't mind trying it out myself.
Yeah.
Being frustrated in seconds, but also weirded out. And another thing that I want to say was about Blueprints, because I've not played that yet, but that's like on the other scale, end of the scale, where you've got, is it the 49th room, I think you've got to get to, whatever it is. And yeah, that's like, can be a 50-hour, 60-hour experience of, I guess, a puzzle in a different way, and writing notes and finding out about that, and listen to high scores, high stakes, sorry guys, podcast, and there's a couple of guys in there that absolutely love it, and they sort of said they've got a whole book of notes for this game, and that's a really interesting way of playing, these corridor puzzlers and stuff. So, speaking of, I guess, working your way down weirdly sort of like framework corridors.
Yeah.
Echochrome.
Right. Yeah.
2008, Japan studio game. So very much in their wheelhouse of making a statement, having a style. So really kind of like very much like MC Escher.
Okay. Yeah.
So you play as a wireframe mannequin, and when I say that you play as, the wireframe mannequin kind of controls itself. It just continuously walks up and down these platforms. And what you can do as the player is rotate the platforms so that you can assist your mannequin to complete the level, basically.
Right.
It's not necessarily an escape, but the goal is that you meet up with, they call them echoes. Effectively, it's like a sort of ghost figure of yourself, and you have to get to, say, 4 or 5 different points around this level to finish the level.
Right.
You do, there's lots of different ways that can be, I guess, lots of different ways that you can rotate the level to make that happen. There is, what is it called again? It's called, they gave it like a trademark, effectively. It was almost like a perspective sort of, what was it called again? There was like perspective laws, effectively.
Right.
So I think it's like traveling, perspective traveling. So you can attach 2 platforms together. So you rotate the level so that both bits of platform look like they meet each other, and your mannequin can go on its way.
Yeah.
There are bits where there may be a hole in the middle of the platform that you're trying to get your mannequin down. You can obscure that hole with another piece of platform from another part of the level, and as soon as you do that, your mannequin can make its way down that platform. The programming in this is exemplary. Honestly, I cannot believe that somebody has designed a game where it effectively feels like a science experiment to be able to just change perspective to manipulate the game around 100% what the player is telling it to do. Like, it's almost like you're coding the game as you go.
It sounds a lot kind of like Fazz.
Yeah.
A fair comparison?
Yeah, a bit, yeah, kind of. I mean, the thing that I was thinking of, which just spoke about this year as well, was I remember, like how the guys who made Flower and Journey and Flow, and were sort of speaking about how they put the building blocks in to sort of say, we were just kind of trying to prove a concept.
Yeah.
This feels like a prove a concept game. But this, it's almost like a singular goal of making the most stylish, sleek, I guess, pared back way of doing that, and making it work on a PSP. It's amazing how they do that. It does suffer from that a little bit as well, though, from the point of view that it does feel a bit sterile, almost. So it has a personality. It just has that one personality, and I can see why. I've not played this game, but I can see why Echo Shift came after it, and for example, the artwork on the game, and I don't even know what the game consists of, but I think that kind of includes doing things with colours. And I can imagine how they probably felt. They were like, "We have made this genius game with Echochrome, brilliant puzzler, just." Feels like it drains your soul a little bit, and comparable to Exit, which was just so pop arty and like Andy Warhol-y, compared to this, which is that, like I said, the MCS are just sort of like climbing up and down stairs on a white background, an infinite white background. It's a bit unsettling. It is. It's sort of you do feel like it gives you the concept of this mannequin's kind of like balanced in in nothingness, and all there is you being able to manipulate these platforms to help this mannequin, whatever it's trying to do, basically. And the one thing that I thought was a little bit of a struggle as well in terms of the mechanics. So yeah, the obscurity of being able to put these platforms together and obscuring obstacles. There's a little jump warp box. The idea is that your mannequin will hit it and jump, like a spring from Sonic, for example. I feel like that doesn't work as well as the rest of the mechanics, because you have to then catch your mannequin by spinning the platforms round, and when you think you're at a certain angle to catch a mannequin, it just falls off into the abyss, and you kind of go, I felt like I was under that there, and that one just feels not as well thought out as the rest of the mechanics. I was genuinely like amazed. Maybe I'm so simple, but I was genuinely amazed and stunned at how well it worked when you manipulated the level, apart from the jump mechanic, which I was a bit like, sometimes I felt a bit frustrated when I was like, I swear I'm in the right place here, and it's not. So it's almost like a trial and error situation.
Yeah.
And just like with Exit, there is a time limit that you've got, not a life limit. You can fall off as much as you want, which is brilliant, obviously. But yeah, there is a little bit of a time limit that kind of will make sure that becomes a little bit frustrating.
Yeah.
You could get probably a good sense of competition in this, I think, and you could probably get some sort of speed running competitions going on with this as well, because not everything is obvious. So you can imagine that maybe back in the day, you and a friend could say, right, okay, yeah, because it does give you a time and it gives you a score of how well you do. So you can imagine that, how well did you do this puzzle and how quickly did you do this puzzle. Almost like a game of chess where you sat there with your little timer in the middle, just sort of like, yeah, done, next one. And again, just like, so Exit gave you a lot of levels, but you still had to do some unlocking. Whereas here there is a mode, it's called, is it called Atelier? It's a bit of a weird name, Atelier. And that gives you all the levels. You can just do all the levels off the bat. So you can jump around. If you hit a difficulty spike, which there are some of, you can just jump to a different level. So out of, I think there's 96 levels. So again,
crikey,
massive amount of content.
Yeah.
And you don't become frustrated by the levels that you can't do, which I found so many times, especially in PSP games. Like, this is completely a different type of game, but it just come back to me right now as a memory. I remember really struggling through Tiger Woods 06 because you had to beat the other golfers in order. And I think I got stuck on like Colin Montgomery or some shit like that. Just like, and it was like I just couldn't get past him. And I was like, I couldn't. I tried so many times, and I was like, it just clearly was like that was where like my cap with the game was. I think it was like the third to last golfer, and I'm like, well, the rest of the game's blocked off for me now. Whereas this here, I never got to a point where I was like, oh, I can't, there's a few levels I'm gonna have to come back to, but certainly there's enough here for me to go. I've experienced enough of the game, and I don't feel like I'm being cheated out of it.
Yeah.
So that was nice to sort of have. There's a couple other different sub modes as well, which you could kind of increase the difficulty for yourself. So the solo part of it is, as described, the game that we just said. There's a pair one where you can basically, you merge with the same color echo as what you are. So you're white and you can merge with other white echoes, and you have to merge with them to finish the game.
Right.
The biggest difficulty, and I only did 2 or 3 levels doing this because I found it extremely hard, is that you kind of get, they're called others. and basically you end up trying to merge with your own echoes again, the white ones, but there's some black mannequins that are in your way, and you have to manipulate the level so that you could, so say your white mannequin is 4 platforms over, and there's like 3 of the black mannequins in the way, for example, and you bump off them, and it's so hard. That is in there are just these bouncers that are like, no, fuck off, mate, and you're like, oh, that isn't. And just like with Exit, you're trying to move things and manipulate things around and move things, whereas in Exit it's obviously just a person pushing a crate, whereas here you're twisting levels around and turning everything 360 to try and get to the point where you're like, and when you do it you feel amazing, but it's so tough on that mode. So yeah, I think that's not for the faint-hearted, to be honest. That is, and I did a couple of those, and I was like, it took a lot of brain power to kind of get over the hump with that. Like I said, it doesn't ask the PSP to do anything that it shouldn't do, and again, having that style really works quite well for that. So I think that both of these games have a basic puzzling policy. I don't know that word. Policy. Where did that come from? But like I said with Exit as well, it's great to see that you can make a game that gets you so involved, but it doesn't stretch the PSP too far. That is, and it doesn't make it so you're getting any weird pop-in from random games and things. So the genius processing of this is something to behold, and I can honestly, you should really, if you like puzzling games, definitely go and play Echochrome. There's just a few things in there that I found a little bit frustrating, and it does feel like a bit sterile. So I am interested to go and play Echo Shift just to see what they bring in, to maybe see if it feels a bit more homely, maybe.
I get that.
Just like give you a bit more of a cuddle, like yeah. But then that might take away from that is in the aesthetic of it as well. It might make it something that it isn't anymore. I don't know. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens. I would describe the mechanics of this as maybe evolutionary, maybe not revolutionary, but certainly something the way you kind of go, wow, that isn't. You sit back and kind of go, why have I not played this game for 17 years? That isn't, and maybe it was the aesthetics that kind of like and put me off, because I like colourful, bouncy things like Loca Roco, right? Like rather than that is in something like this. But yeah, it wasn't quite like so. For example, Lemmings on the PSP.
Yeah,
that's mine wheelhouse. I think I gave that 8 out of 10, and that was almost like where I was like, that's a puzzle where you kind of get the fun, jaunty music, but you also get the real hard challenge with that, and you've got to think about it. And this is almost like it's weird cousin, like it's it's goth cousin, but it's almost like it's doing all the same things, but you're kind of a bit wary about them. So yeah, I think an 8 out of 10 for this. A really, really good PSP game. And so I played it on the PSP, and then I checked out as well, because I realized that you could just go on any level you wanted. Checked out as well on PS Plus Premium as well, and they haven't done anything to it. It's just I was playing on the PlayStation 4 that day. So if you can, the fact that it's so accessible for so many people, you could do a lot worse than spending 2 or 3 hours playing on Echochrome and just kind of stretching your mind a little bit.
Nice.
It just, going back to that point, I kind of started hamming my way through with the puzzling and sort of saying the PSP was a good place for it. The reason I didn't play Exit, or didn't put it on the podcast for a while, is because I was like, I'm playing too many puzzle games on the PSP. But then, going back, it's because there's so many of them, and a lot of them are really good, and actually a really good way to while away the hours. And I kind of felt a bit less validated maybe a year ago to be like, oh, all these puzzle games, am I really playing video games that people want to listen to? But I feel like a bit older and wiser by a year to sort of think, actually, these do hold merit. And there's some really good ones. So yeah, nothing else to say. We've got 3 podcasts to record tonight, so let's crack on. Look at the time, like, oh god, we're meant to start early. Right, okay, bye.
Cheers.